Okay, hello everybody. Thank you for joining us today. I have with us a special guest, one of my favorites, happens to be my fantastic brother, but also a super spiritual, magical being. He's a spiritual advisor, psychic educator, lithomancer, tarot and oracle reader extraordinaire. This is Colby, the Wandering Fool. So I'll head that over to you.
Hello, world, and merry meet us, the wondering fool and boy witch extraordinaire. How are you? And how are you, my sister, my twin?
I'm good. I'm fantastic. I am showered. I am clean. I'm ready to present.
Oh, thank
the
goodness
day.
for that.
Yeah, right. I know. Yeah, it's gonna be a good day. I feel it. Right.
Yeah, happy February. Rabbit, rabbit, rabbit.
Rabbit, rabbit. You know, I'm going to side quest as always. I saw something online, and someone else totally out of our scope was rabbit, rabbit, rabbiting and talking about it being a folklore thing.
Yeah, it is.
And then the Bridget's, the towel basically you put out the night before being a Celtic. It was interesting though. It's like, oh, and then they were talking about some books and things that it was found in. So I thought of you.
Aww. So do you have any like first of the month traditions that you do?
No, but now I'm feeling left out, right?
Oh,
so I think I want to do this. I want to do something fancy.
I love the cinnamon tradition.
Ah, okay.
It's basic, and that's absolutely fine. Sometimes basic is beautiful. And so on the first of the month, you step out your front door, you step out your back door, you get a palm of cinnamon, and you take a moment and you focus on your intentions for the month, what you're creating, your hopes, your dreams, your desires. You take that moment, you take an honest moment, you charge that cinnamon up, and then you blow it into the house.
So it goes into the house and not out.
Yeah, it goes into the house.
So because you're bringing prosperity in.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. That's beautiful.
So, on social media, a few months back, there's a lot of people like making some shady comments, which that's social media. But instead of just like, reminding people the importance of setting intentions when you're doing this, they were just like, people are out there just blowing cinnamon to their house haphazardly. I'm like, where's the education?
Yeah. Don't complain, educate.
Don't complain, educate.
It's a teaching moment.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
I know. Well, I don't do that. Like when it's in it, this was like a couple days ago, even it was feeling a little stale or funky, or I wanted to change energy in some way. And it did have to do with prosperity as well, but also just the energy in the house. So I have the spray that I make with it. I'm not going to say the word, but
cinnamon.
Yes. My ends get all jacked up with that.
It's the list.
Yeah, probably. So I make a spray, and I went about and sprayed all the areas. I have, the brooms on the back of the door, and, just all the areas with that. And I also, this season, have been using a fir blend. I made one for, the fir smelled like trees. So I did that too. And that just kind of lifted it up. So nice. I don't wait till just the first of the month. I'm ready all the time.
Yeah. Well, I tell you, last week I spent some honest time, especially here in the office, just kind of redecorating and purging and cleaning and organizing. I went through my closets last week. I got rid of like 4 bags, like trash bags of clothes. I did a partial deep clean of the living room. I still have to dust. I hate dusting. I hate dusting. Like it's the bane of my existence. I still have to dust. I'm probably going to do that sometime in the next day or two. And I built my first grid of the year. I don't know why I was holding off on it. I just kind of did like an all-purpose like chakra grid.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I wasn't setting any
on social.
Yeah, I wasn't setting any like singular intention. I wanted to just create balance and harmony and open energy up to receiving. And I burnt a couple of different candles within the grid. And of course, we have in bulk and we have the full moon on Sunday. So there's all of that.
This building kind of time and
Yeah.
energy. That's what it feels like. And, if anyone follows him on social media, The Wandering Fool, TikTok as well, Facebook, all the jam. He posted a really cool picture, and I always find his grids beautiful. I mean, they're
Oh,
not just
thank
worked
you.
out there. Mine are like for the task energy, they're not beautiful. They're getting it done. But there was a spiral and a winding sort of,
Mm-hmm.
it,
I
it was
did a docile or clockwise sunburst,
sunburst.
and
There's the word.
each rotation started with the root chakra, and then it spiraled out into the crown chakra, and then with the clockwise or docile rotation to bring in, and then I have double terminated quartz to draw energy in and push out. And then I have quartz generators at the end of each chakra line pointed in to bring in the energy.
I love it.
Yeah. I love to, let's call it shift consciousness, put on some good music, and just pull out all of my gridding crystals and let them talk to me.
Yeah, absolutely. That is really the best way. I know we're hopping around here. We'll get back to our questions, but this is good stuff. Intuitively allowing the
Yeah.
spirit, whatever you want to call it, the moment, the movement, fill you and guide you. That, don't second guess it. Go with it. And that's where the magic sits.
So Miss Tittles, she actually ended up getting onto the gridding table and shifting everything around, because I haven't been gridding for a minute because I had the house decorated for this holiday or that holiday. And so I ended up having to move the gridding table. And in moving it, I went ahead and cleansed all the crystals before I reset them. And originally, I had I like to work with the combination of Mystic Merlinite, or if you want to get technical, Indigo Garbra, and Labradorite. And originally, I had the Labradorite in the crown and the Mystic Merlinite in the third eye. But when I reset it, I felt like the Mystic Merlinite would be better in the crown and the Labradorite in the third eye. No reason. I just felt it that day. So when I reset the grid on a different table, everything else stayed the same except for those two crystals. And I don't know, it's been creating a very relaxed, calm, and peaceful energy in the home, which is something I think subconsciously I needed, because it has been complete and total rock and roll since October. And I will tell you that throughout the month of January, I really felt like I was tiptoeing toward hitting a wall. And so I was having to readjust my energy and make myself take those breaks and take those days off, so that I could push through. And now finally, last week and this week really is kind of a rest and rejuvenate. And I'm trying to accept that. But you know me, I'm always go, 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 and make that dollar. Yes. And even today's Tarot 365 with the King of Pentacles was a reminder that our physical well-being and physical stability is just as important as our material and financial well-being as well. So making sure not to, be so hyper-focused on money, and to make sure that you are incorporating that physical care.
Yeah,
So,
and a healthful balance,
yeah.
throughout. Real quick and just for the folks that are going to listen to this that may not be too familiar with crystal gridding, do you
Mhm.
want to say a couple sentences just in general what that is?
So crystal grids are something that we can utilize as a tool to help physically visualize our manifestations. It's a tool that helps us to physically set intention. Do you need crystal grids to do this stuff? No. But I mean, this is true Libra fashion. Um, Grids are beautiful.
Yeah.
And the crystals do create an energy. And so while I'm building a grid, I tend to think about the reason why I'm building that grid. I'm feeling where the crystals need to go. And so, you can build grids to create harmonious energy. You can create grids for protection. You can create spicy grids. You can create grids for any aspect in life. I have been gridding, gosh, for over a decade now.
Yep.
Um,
Long time.
Even you and I experimented long ago with like doing bigger like floor grids that you would step into that energy.
And we need to do
And
that again.
that's yes, and that's always fun. However, I tend to do what I call tabletop grids.
Mm.
And I have my own weird rules, and they're just my rules. That there's nothing in any book anywhere that says it has to be this way or that way. But like, I did a 7 chakra grid. And so I had the seven chakra stones, but then I also incorporated double terminated quartz, quartz generators, and also rhodochrosite to kind of help push the intentions. And then I chose to do 5 on the chakra stones. So there's 7 chakra stones and 5 of each one of them. And so there are 5 sunbursts of chakra lines that encompass either the candle, or like right now I have a quartz sphere in the center to keep the energy vibrating until I do another candle.
And that's just to confirm with the world out here, that's an okay thing to do when you activate it, or when you're actively working, you may put the candle and then replace it with something else. It's an amplifier, to hold its place, because it's not truly safe to burn a candle 24 hours a day. So, practical.
Depending on the size of the surface that I'm using, like I actually went to a larger surface. So I was able to fit my large sphere in the center, but often I will use my quartz pyramid, any other kind of centerpiece. And then again, switching out for candles when I want to do some candle work.
Yeah. And I find for the most part, something pointy.
Yeah.
Like to shoot up. For those that aren't familiar with generators and all that, the pointy, go for that to kind of shoot it out, that sort of thing.
For the centerpiece, either using an obelisk that has even sides or a pyramid, both work with that apex energy coming out of the point. With a sphere, it is evenly dispersing the energy from the center. With generators, wire generators different from obelisks, generators will usually have okay, so here's an obelisk.
Yes.
This is my labradorite. And for the most part, everything is pretty even. Whereas with a generator, this one has a beautiful, large, open face. And then there's a nice, beautiful little keyhole there. But this directs energy in a specific direction.
Now, are those also called record keepers?
Record keepers, keyholes. Sometimes that all gets really confusing.
It really does, guys. You're pointing it up. I mean, if you just start with the basics at least,
Just point
and
it
then
up.
get more fancy, but just get
Yeah.
something going.
So, you know,
I get lost,
there's
I
no
know.
wrong way. There's no wrong way to do any of it. It is really just focusing on what brings your heart joy.
And honestly, you know, my perspective with building a grid or doing any sort of working or petitioning or anything, it is a tool, but I tell you, the more energy you're putting into whatever you're doing, the more clarity comes with you in the universe and what you need. So that's kind of the trick behind it all. You know, why you spend time choosing this and that, the more time you put it, instead of saying, oh, I want this, and then put it on a piece of paper and walk away and go on about your business. Put some energy into it. Really
Absolutely.
think about it. Yeah, that's where that stuff, you can't just buy a candle, light it, and walk away. You got to
No.
do some things.
Do some
So,
things.
that was a great side quest there. We should have another
Yeah.
one just on crystals, maybe, if you want.
Truth. I always can
All
talk
right.
about crystals.
So the topic kind of for today, which does encompass that, is living magically, right? How the magical world is integrated into our mundane world in a beautiful embrace. Yeah, fancy, right? So one of the first questions we have for you, sir, is I'd like, oh no, actually, let's give a little background, a little story about what you do, who you are, sort of thing.
Well, you know, it's actually kind of interesting that we are recording today. You know, it's February 1st, 2023. And tomorrow marks the 12-year anniversary that essentially my spiritual journey began. And just quick cliff notes, like many people, and including yourself, you know, my journey began with a tragedy. And that's a longer story. Through that tragedy and experiencing the trauma of it, I sought out healing and understanding. I eventually brought me to this beautiful, magical, spiritual reality. And things happened very, very fast, I think, for both of us, to be honest.
Yeah.
In that first year of exploration, we both took a deep dive and we worked hard.
Yeah.
I'm saying we because Jamie and I really, this is one of the things that bonded us.
Yeah.
We both were going through tremendous healing. We both chose to take this path of spirituality. I did not know it was going to take either of us in the direction it did.
It's kind of awesome how it did.
I had, and this may sound crazy, but I have been able to like pinpoint my own spiritual awakening. Now, I had journeyed through 2011 exploring spirituality and trying to understand things and understanding my place and understanding my purpose. And then on Christmas Day of 2011, I had what has been coined, and this is not like an official term or anything, but I went through something we've called a psychic crisis. In that experience, one of the things that happened was I was shown my potential. my potential as a psychic, a spiritualist, a practitioner of witchcraft. But there was also a choice that had to be made. And that choice essentially was to honestly let go of the trauma that I had suffered and truly embrace the healing at that point. I had been deep in grief for 10 months, and through this experience, at the end of it, that grief was lifted. I'm not saying that I was healed, I wasn't over it. That took a few years. But the grief that held me back from healing was gone.
Like a heavy weight.
Yep.
That they lifted from your essence so that you could
And
move forward.
if you thought that my progression was quick leading up to that point, after December 25th of 2011, everything escalated. And I started working as a professional psychic that spring. And so this spring, I will be celebrating 11 years working as a professional psychic, spiritual advisor, and educator. And I mean, I was totally green when I first started. I was still figuring things out. I had like 2 tarot decks. I had a couple of angel oracle decks. And I was figuring out who I was as a psychic and as a diviner. What I didn't realize is that that word diviner has become a larger meaning for me. That's how I identify my craft, my working. It's not that I don't cast a spell, but that's not my focus. My focus is divination and also manifestation, especially over the last like 3 years. I've really delved into who I am as a manifester, how I manifest, and why my manifestations have evolved.
And side note, guys, you noticed that he mentioned that he was working as he was learning. So
yeah,
not that everyone should go out and work, but do practice work. If you have some cards, don't just wait and read about everything. You got to really immerse a little bit into it to really learn. So there,
it's a practice.
Yeah,
all of this is
literally
a practice.
like going
And
to the
so
gym.
if you are wanting to get into divination, if you're wanting to get into psychic development, you've got to practice. So either finding workshops or a magical group to work with, asking the universe for spiritual friends and things like that. But like that growth comes from practice, like physical practice. So early on, I discovered Source dropped a divination into my consciousness that I didn't even know was a divination initially. And that was reading crystals, or the fancy word lithomancy. And I had never even heard the word lithomancy until one of my mentors was like, this is a legit divination. You're just doing your version of it. And so I cultivated it. That mentors like this is something you really should consider incorporating into your readings. And so, over the years, the lithomancy bag, it holds about 40 something crystals in it. Each individual crystal has its own story, and you just do a blind pull of crystals and you begin to line them up just like you would tarot cards or oracle cards. And you line them up until they start creating sentences and stories.
And I
And
think you mentioned even before that not only do you have a crystal for that area, say, romance, but you have multiple
yeah,
because there's shades of aspects of the romance. So it gets really
exactly.
detailed in the way he reads it,
Yeah, it's a little cray cray,
which I
but in
find
a good
very
way.
interesting.
Yes. Um, so that was the first thing that I independently cultivated, and it's still a cornerstone element of my divination. Then I developed a relationship with animal medicine. Uh, when we talk about specifically psychic abilities, I often see animals around people when I open up with them. Of course, people are like, "Oh, what animal do you see around me?" I'm like, well, we're not in that space right now.
Oh, I get the aura question all the time. I'm like, I'm offline right now.
Yeah.
Literally. Like just I'm
I
not
mean,
having
yes,
coffee right now. So I feel
I
like
can flip this, I can flip the switch, but like guys out there, if you're interacting with a psychic who has a special ability and you're in a casual setting, don't ask them to work. And if you are, present them with a $20 bill and be like, "What's my aura?" Sorry,
yeah, I
not
mean,
sorry.
would you bring your pet to, a party where there's a vet and say, you know what, it needs,
Exactly.
to have be checked for some things.
Um, Over the years, I've also built a very personal relationship with numerology. Now, my initial inspiration came from Michelle Buchanan's book on numerology. But we all have our own relationships with numbers. And that this statement really bleeds into all aspects of spirituality. It is okay that you have your relationship with five and I have
Mhm.
my
Yeah.
relationship with five. They're both right.
It's how spirit communicates with each of us. They're both right.
And I will tell you, between the numerology and the lithomancy, like this is where I get people. They're like, "How are you doing this?" And I'm like, I'm magical.
Mhm.
And I have a deep love for tarot. It is my favorite form of cartomancy. But nowadays, I don't even touch my cards until the back half of a reading. There's so much more stuff to do. So
Yeah.
I'm also an educator. When I spent 10 years working in a metaphysical shop, and Jamie worked there as well, we both were members of the Enchanted Earth family. And I mean, for a decade, I was teaching workshops,
Mhm.
psychic development, manifestation, crystals, divination, witchcraft, chakras. Um, and then, the Rona hit and that kind of changed some stuff around. And then last February, the shop closed and I've been working independently and I've yet to step back into the realm of teaching. Um, I haven't found the right environment yet because I don't want to do like live online courses. And this is something you and I have talked about countless times. And I know that when the timing is right to step back into teaching specifically, I mean, of course, I have a lot of people asking for tarot workshops. Um, it'll come about. And I think
Yeah.
one of the reasons, especially like with tarot, is that one of my big shticks here is bringing simplicity to all aspects of spirituality. Because I think people get overwhelmed quite often because of the intricacies of certain practices.
Yeah.
And
I know, I
that's
mean,
something
I
that,
like to do some virtual, obviously. I'm trying to move more and more into the one to many, so group workshops and things, just to be able to serve more.
yeah,
However, there are a few classes that are just better in person.
they
One
are.
being my clairvoyance, because I have literal things they hold and things we do that you know, it's just not the same if it's
Yeah.
not in person. So it's interesting.
Specifically, psychic development, divination, and crystals really are workshops that are most beneficial when done in person, my perspective at least. So, but as I mentioned last year, Enchanted Earth closed its doors. What was that? February 19th, I believe.
Yeah.
Um,
Yep.
and that started my adventure of independence because I'd always worked in a shop. At the beginning of February, right around Valentine's Day, is when I started making content for TikTok.
Yeah, and you got me
And
on the tiki of the talkies. And now I remember it was last February. So it's like our anniversary of me going on the
yeah,
video. Because I was petrified, guys.
she was.
He brought me into this and has supported me doing this, moving to the web with that sort of stuff. So yeah, it's our little anniversary too.
Yeah, right. I didn't expect TikTok to become what it is. I still laugh. You know, being a middle-aged homosexual psychic witch on a platform created for Gen Z. But I mean, there's definitely dedicated viewers. And it also gave us an opportunity for our Twin Libra chat on Thursday nights at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Shameless plug. You know, that is giving you and I an opportunity every week to have some virtual quality time.
Yeah.
It's not something that we've had in the past. It's been able to be something that's consistent, and I think that it's helped us to grow even closer over this last year because of that damn going live thing.
I know. It's so divinely placed in so many ways that, you know, because that would have been the last thing that I wanted to do before. But all the beautiful things that it has uncovered, and we're here live now on a podcast and a video cast as well, we're going to have, but it's just amazing. And what I think is also neat is that Colby and I are we're kind of like a DNA strand in how we come together on our thoughts and spirituality, but then we veer off a little bit, but then we come back again. And it's interesting. And it's okay. And the way we honor each other's perspective on these chats, I think it's a very healthy view for everyone. Because they'll either resonate with both of us or one or the other or something. But it's interesting. And sometimes I'll preface things. Well, my perspective is, you know, but it's a beautiful, and I actually think it's a bit of an example on how I wish more of the spiritual community would have great discussions, even having different points on stuff and different, you know, mental framework. I think it's good to discuss.
We share perspective on more things than not.
Absolutely.
But when we hit those moments where, you know, we work with something different or we have different relationships with a thing, it is an opportunity for the viewers to not hear debate, because it's never a debate. It's like, oh, that's cool. This is how I work with it.
Yeah.
And it's about acceptance, where it's not a competition.
Absolutely.
You know,
and different sides of a coin and perspectives and how they all work. The whole
spiritual peeing contest is such a turnoff for me. It's like no one's better than the other. And that could absolutely lead us down other avenues, talking about like hierarchies and things like that, which I think is just old information.
Yeah. It's yeah. That's another chat for another day, but we agree on that.
Another chat for another day.
Because I tell you, you know, we want to support people, more
Yeah.
than put them in line, if you know what I
Cheers.
mean. There are those out there that, focus a little bit more on putting people in line. And so just,
It's
we're
not
not going to get
sexy.
into it, but hey,
It's
we're
not
not those
sexy.
people. No, we support you in your growth in spirituality and healing.
Yeah.
All right. So we got a little bit of that down. Now let's talk about burnout and finding the right shift in your practice to bring inspiration and things like that. So
that's
what do you
really,
do?
really important because I have learned my lesson with burnout. You cannot ignore it. It must be acknowledged. If you ignore it and you keep pushing and you fall out of that passion, the perfect example, as soon as you mentioned that, it immediately came to my mind, my burnout with
Ritual.
rituals.
Yeah.
I mean, we spent the better part of 10 years actively doing rituals. Some months there was 2, even maybe 3 different rituals. And to explain this quickly, Enchanted Earth used to hold open public rituals. We would do a full moon ritual, we would have our Sabbath rituals, and then ever so often we would have a ritual for something else. And it was a service that we offered to the community. And my burnout came from when you were doing something like an open public ritual, you are always going to have people who have never been in a ritual before. And so you have to keep it at a digestible place so that everyone is getting something.
Yeah.
Well, what happened, and I'm not pulling the ego on this or anything like that, but what happened for me on a spiritual level was I was not getting anything outside of an energy charge off of these rituals that we performed. We were growing, we were advancing, we were expanding, but we were doing the same things that we were doing 8 years prior. And then the not so spiritual aspect, the physicality of it, like I became a complete see you next Tuesday on ritual day, because quite often, and a big part of this was my choosing to do so, the setup, the preparation, whether it was my ritual or not.
Yeah, because the ones that Enchanted, they were beautiful. They were set up. It took them a couple hours to set up, and they're also working in the shop at the same time. I mean, getting tables set and then altars set, and then the fires going, and the anointment oils for there's just so much. If you're doing a big one like that, there's so much involved to make it an experience for people. And I know there's some rituals at other places and they just have a little table and a candle and stuff, but that's not what this was. Everyone learned what a ritual, and that was
it was full pomp and circumstance.
Yeah, they got to actually experience it where they may not find another place like that. So that's the other side of it. But the work,
it was absolutely beautiful for everyone who was there and participating. But at the end of the day, we were working everyone else's magical experience, and I got completely and totally burnt out.
Yeah.
And I mean, we have not had a public ritual since 2019. No, in bulk 2020 was the very last ritual that we had.
Yeah.
So 3 years ago, right now, was the last time we did a public ritual. Yeah. And I, to this day, still have zero desire to do that. Even in my own personal practices, I don't do that traditional ritual. Depending on what I'm doing, yes, I'm still calling in the quarters, I'm still calling energies in, I'm creating sacred space, but I'm not doing that, traditional step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. I'm just kind of being in that wild magic.
And
Which
it's a different type of ritual. It's a less
Yeah.
formal ritual, more organic ritual space. If you're calling in quarters and going into sacred space, in quarters, you can call in animals, you can call in angels, you can call in deities, elementals, all the things. So whoever's doing what, I mean, you're creating a little, it's more organic. I still see it as one, as long as I'm creating a sacred space for me to do whatever, even if I'm just going in for a deep meditation.
Right.
But it's not the ornate stuff. It's a totally different in energy expenditure, if you will.
I discovered through that burnout that my desires in magic, mysticism, ritualistic workings, witchcraft was also evolving.
Yeah.
And outside of my divination, my personal interests today are vastly different. I got even weirder than I thought I could. And I love it. Don't get me wrong. I'm not downing myself in any way, shape, or form. But, the quote unquote old ways does not resonate with me as strongly as my interests today do. But it was a valuable lesson in burnout. And I have since then recognized when I'm headed toward like hitting a wall.
Yeah. Yeah.
And learning to take that step back and to chill out for a second and just even out to prevent the burnout. Because
Yes.
I
And
don't
that's
have anything
tricky.
else I want to burn out on right now.
No, it is tricky. It's tricky. I know in the beginning I had a different time. I had a burnout because it was all opening up so fast. And I wasn't sleeping well because I was having these dreams and everything was just active all the time. Like I'd open up this well and I was not helping any because I was so excited. That's all I wanted to do.
Right.
And then I hit a spot where I felt, and I remember because, I had a call with MJ and I'm like, I don't feel anything. Like nothing's happening. I'm just regular. Did I make them mad? Did I do something wrong? And she's like, no, that's not how any of this works. They're not going to take it back. Your magic. What you've done is they're giving you a timeout so you could be a human because you're going way too fast. And it's not a good balance. Everything, no matter what spiritual topic you're talking about, balance is the utmost importance, whether it's specifically healing, whether it's working in the craft, anywhere you're working, balance is what you're supposed to be after. So
Spiritual practicality.
Come again?
Spiritual practicality.
Yeah, for sure. So that was a form of burnout that also can happen to new folks. And I try to warn them. I'm like, take it easy. You have
and that also brings up the subject of plateauing.
Yes.
And my perception on plateauing, one, we all are going to experience plateau. That first one is a freak out because you do think, oh, I just lost everything I created. My perspective on plateau, because also experiencing it off and on throughout the years now, when we plateau, we hit a point where it's no longer about learning the new, it is learning to become comfortable in what you have accessed. I say comfortable, I say practiced versus mastering. I do not believe in saying we have the ability to master anything in spirituality. Again, that's my perspective. Whereas the title Reiki Master is something different than saying I have.
My head. I was just thinking that when you said
it is
that.
Different than saying, I have mastered tarot, because I haven't. No. I am very comfortable and I have my style and my aesthetic when it comes to divination, but I have in no way, shape, or form mastered tarot. And even in Reiki, like you have attuned to Reiki master, but you are going to continue to learn throughout
Oh,
the rest of
yes.
your existence.
All the time it's evolving into something that's not even anything I've ever read, but I'm going with it because
Exactly.
it serves well, and it's a good experience, and it helps people heal in ways far beyond traditional Reiki. And though I advertise as such, there's 5 different modalities that go into a session. It's not just Reiki. We're working all kinds of stuff in here,
Right.
but the purpose is to heal in whatever
Purpose.
way the person needs to heal in the moment. And I know what I'm teaching, I always say this in Reiki level 1, when I talk about chakras, which is not, again, traditional Reiki. That's the add-in. That's not traditional Reiki. Traditional Reiki is just the organs and meridians. So when we throw in the chakras, that's extra. We throw in the angels or guides, that's extra. Intuition, finding weird spots that are, malaligned, that's extra. So, but I teach all that too, because it's a better experience. But what I was saying was, when I was talking about the chakras, I said, okay, there's 7 popular. We're going to work from 9 to 12 in here. And, you're not done when you just learn the surface of those. You can spend a lifetime learning about, truly digging into the chakras, their psychological connections, all of this stuff. There is no mastery. There's, experience, there is, but you always continue to learn and be open all the time. Don't ever, I'm giving you some advice, folks. Don't ever walk around like you're a master or like you know more. Walk around with a curious mind.
Yes.
Okay. Because you can learn even from someone that believes completely different things in religion. If you both have an open mind, you may learn something. So that's just my PSA for today. Carry on.
Let me preface with this. I would say it was probably the first 4 or 5 years of my spiritual journey that I focused on what was being taught to me by mentors, what I was reading, what I was witnessing. Once I got comfortable with stuff like that, I laugh all the time when I think about this. I hit a moment where I realized I got to the end of the introductory manual, so to speak.
Yeah.
And for me, that took me onto a path of kind of like off-roading. And what I mean by that is that around year 4 or 5, I feel as though is when I really started focusing on how I did stuff.
Yeah.
And building those relationships. And that's something I say all the time. It's about building a relationship with this, building a relationship with crystals, building a relationship with divination, how you've built your relationship with Reiki. And this is not something that's in a book.
Nope.
This is
And
not
that's why I use the
handed
word
down from
language
your elders.
instead of relationship. But same exact 100%. We agree on this, guys. Absolutely. You learn a little bit, and then you learn it all afterwards. It's like you get the foundation, the basics to keep you out of trouble, guide you, and then go and further develop your relationship, your language with them. You learn so much. And my God, journal it. Journal it, journal it, journal it. Because it will start to make a map for you. Go ahead, sorry.
The reason why I bring that up is, again, my perception, interesting perception. I feel as though many people end up stagnating because they get so entrapped in the written word and what's been published. We recently had a conversation about this too. That's not why I'm bringing it up. It's more about, I think that we've forgotten that every source material that is out there is based off of someone's experience.
Yeah.
And at some point in our spiritual journey, we have to step away from how someone else spiritualizes and discover who we are as spiritualists, who we are as creators, who we are as magicians and witches and healers and all of that jazz.
I find that there are two types that I see a lot as I'm teaching. Those that come from an analytical perspective, which I totally get, and I'm blessed to be able to have seen both sides, and those that just kind of go with it. I've noticed a trend in those with the analytical side really want the books, they want the structure, they want that. And to untrain them takes a hot minute. We have to work on them letting go and going and experimenting. Whereas there's others that are like, let's go take that ride, let's do the thing. So
Right.
it seems to be some sort of trend there with the way the mind, organically thinks and letting go of aspects and just experimenting. And it's, not second guessing yourself on everything and just give it a try, see what happens. You could invent something new.
Don't get me wrong. We need our spiritual historians. We need those people who are going to keep up those origins, those traditions. I have several friends who they have read so much and they have so much knowledge, and that's great. It's needed. It's not what I am passionate about.
Mhm.
I am all about that organic creation. It's like, give me something and let me see what I can create with it.
Yeah.
That also takes us kind of stepping out of ego as well, which, not to like pick on you, but you've quite recently have unlocked like your relationship with tarot specifically. You were finally able to step out of what something's meant to mean, and you've started embracing what it means to you.
Yeah.
And when that happens, the world just expands. And that's what I'm passionate about.
Yeah, it's like a light switch goes off in my brain to connect over. Oh, this is just like all the other stuff you're doing. Why are you making it so foreign or separate from those things? And it just, it's a weird light switch. And I have to say it's more prevalent in those that have kind of an analytical hang up coming from that. And it's just the years of training in certain ways. It's hard to undo all of that. And that's not an excuse. It's a perspective and also hopefully encouragement for those that do have that kind of brain. You can get to this space to where you really interact organically and with full trust with the universe. You can get there. It's going to take a little undoing and some radical risk taking that's not written down. And I put risk in like air quotes.
We have to remember and respect that there are specific traditions, high magic, alchemy, Jewry, that are specific to traditional practice.
And I do enjoy those as well.
It's very important. And like with alchemy, that you're dealing specifically with recipes. But when it comes to the broader aspect of spirituality, magic, mysticism, and witchcraft, I think there is a place for those with the analytical mind, and there are definitely specific branches from the spiritual tree that will strongly resonate there. And then you have the nomads and the more chaotic people like myself, who's like, let's throw this in and see what happens.
but it's a balance, right? We have to
Yeah.
bring ourselves closer to balance in each area. And that's, again, this whole life lesson of everything. So yeah,
Someone
very
had said
interesting.
years ago, and it just kind of stuck with me. Why am I going to purchase and read someone else's grimoire when I should be creating my own?
The only
And
thing that I have to speak to that is I'm big on getting the foundations of protection before you go Wild West. So
right.
if there are some foundations in there saying, I really wouldn't recommend you doing this without this, then I'd like to know that ahead of time, then go wild. But that's just me, to be able to set some foundation, then go for it.
If you are going to use bronzite for magical protection against hexes, curses, and ill will, it is best to pair that up with tourmaline to ground the energy instead of it becoming a tennis match of bouncing energy back and forth. Yes, no,
See,
absolutely.
there it's a little mix of both, though. I don't mean heavily structured, step by step
Yeah.
in my beliefs, but just like,
Paint
and
by
that's my only
numbers,
thing on that
metaphysical.
is what?
Paint by numbers, metaphysical.
Yeah. Oh God. Is that it on Amazon? Is that a thing? No.
McWickens. Sorry. Sorry.
No, it's funny. But yeah, just having the foundation. And I've always been about that. Whenever you hop into a different modality, at least learn the foundation and then explore.
Right.
But that's just me being, because I tell you guys, I've made some mistakes in the beginning when I was experimenting.
Robot.
And, I did have experience with the angels, which I'm blessed for, because I was able to get whatever it was out of the room very fast, black shadowy thing, and I wasn't really practicing my foundations and protections at the time. It's in the beginning. I was just Wild West in it and scared the bejesus out of me. So maybe that's me just saying, you don't want to deal with that. So just, have some way to get yourself protected while you go Wild West.
Right.
I know I'm the mothery one here trying to protect.
No, you're good. Trust me, I will always laugh. Sorry, guys. I will always laugh at those who try to debate with me when it comes to the relationship between grounding and psychic development. They're like, well, isn't it going to hinder or prevent your development? I'm like, no, it is going to assist it so that you're more successful in your psychic development.
You guys,
because there are people that are especially air signs who are just so resistant to the idea of grounding. I'm like, that's why you're a hot mess.
In the beginning, I enjoyed, and this comes to some other neat yin yang thing about us. I really enjoyed crystals, amplifying stones. I wanted to get out there and go. And he liked stones, rocks, tourmaline, as opposed to my smoky quartz, more grounding things. And even when we were talking a year ago about sound therapy and how you had such a bad reaction to one of the, because I make custom sound therapy tracks for folks, but and this was more of an alpha theta, and he really was like, nope, nothing. And then we realized that most of what he enjoys is more of the beta relaxing sort of, delta
Absolutely.
sort of lower stuff. And that matched perfectly with his style in the grounding. But yeah, in the beginning, I wanted to go out, and he was really big on grounding. And then I ended up, honestly, when I got more into Reiki and understanding yin and yang and bringing heaven to earth and qigong moves and, the strength of this vibrating energy string that you become when you can reach out to both and lock in. I mean, that's the ultimate right there. So to have the balance and really taking it serious to ground.
I think there's something important here too. If you want to play into astrology, and I can tell you specifically, hold on 2 seconds. Let me go into my drawer of everything.
He's got props, people that can't see.
So I'm just checking, so I'm not going to lie. I have two areas. Well, my Saturn is in Virgo, and then my North Node is in Virgo. That's it. I have little to no Earth in my chart. It is mostly fire and water. And so I think that's why grounding was so important for me. Plus, rewind back 12 years ago, I was a tornado of emotion and a tornado of energy. It was
Same.
just wild. And my mentors are like, we need to get your ass grounded.
Yeah. Because we both naturally channeled a lot. Like, it is no doubt that we were divinely supposed to be doing this, because organically, without us even understanding what we're doing, we could generate a lot of energy. So that's also why they, for Colby's sake, they wanted to ground him. For me, I like really embraced the angels, because the stuff that was going on, I got a little nervous, like that black shadow person. That was probably the spookiest thing that's ever happened to me. And I didn't want that at all going on in my energy. And I knew that with the amount of energy we were waking up, that could very well happen. You become somewhat of a vortex or a portal or something if you don't know what you're doing, sort of thing. So
grounding is a discipline. And because of the relationship I built with grounding, with shielding my connection to Earth, is the reason why I was then able. I mean, there are times when I will sit 14, 15 people in a day.
Yeah, that's a lot.
And I mean, there's people who, like, after 2 readings, they're done. Thankfully, I don't have to do that anymore. Those psychic fairs where everyone's coming in for that 50% off. But now I also feel as though the quality of my readings has expanded even further, my accuracy, because I'm in my own space now. 90% of what I do is done virtually at home in my space.
And you can control the energy.
Yeah. I have this beautiful, majestic grid of crystals in front of me right now.
Mm-hmm.
Everything is tuned in to being able to perform the task more successfully.
And it does matter, guys, when you get into doing this. And this was something one of my original mentors was so big on, and I wasn't totally sure why it mattered as much as the emphasis was put, but now I get it, being a seasoned practitioner, how it is so much easier and so much better if you can control the energy in the room. And it's set to, all right, I like to say the set to the station that works for you, like a radio. It's set right for you, because there's nothing like having to hop into a quick space that someone else was using. And I will say, I loved my time with Enchanted, but if someone else was using the room before, there was different energy, and it wasn't bad. It was just different than what I needed to work with. So I had to put extra energy into adjusting it real quick and stuff like that. But even at home, setting up, and this was something else mentioned on here, sacred space at home, and setting up a little altar space, or, if sometimes your family environment isn't conducive to setting up an altar, maybe they don't all understand what you're doing. So you discreetly set up little spaces, or have a favorite sitting chair that you go to when you want to meditate, but build the energy around that for you, because it will benefit you a million times over. If you can have consistent energy, it's good energy, it's your energy, it makes it much easier in life.
Creating energy in the home, creating sacred space in the home is something that has always been important to me and was hard. to accomplish when you share space with others and
Yeah.
you don't have a space that is 100% devoted just to you. And
Mhm.
so I know that struggle out there. But in living on my own, um, my entire home is sacred space
Yeah.
because because of my magical workings, there is sacred space in the bedroom.
Yeah.
Um, and of course, here in the office is sacred space. This is what it is used for. Um, but I can't necessarily say that this is the highest concentration of sacred space because my living room is where I receive people, guests,
Mhm.
friends, family. And it is extremely important to me that I create a space that is comfortable.
Yes.
And I mean, the great majority of people who come to my home always remark on how chill the environment is.
Yeah. And you have
Um,
selected crystals, grids, different
absolutely.
spiritual aspects to invite that relaxed energy, because sometimes people come over and they're having a hard time. So
Yeah.
they know, this
And I'll sage the
provides
booties down
this.
before they walk into the house. I have done
Yes.
that. I have done that. I'm like, we are
Step
saging
back
you before you
outside,
come
I'm
in.
sage you.
I
Yeah.
learned that from Miss Lori Newlove. There was one time I walked over there, I was in conflict, and she met me at the door with a burning piece of sage. And she's like, no, let's clear this before you come in. And
Yeah.
I understand that. I understand that importance. But also things to take into consideration. And Jamie, you do this too, even if it's just me coming over. Um, Sacred
Yeah.
space is also created by the music that you choose.
Yes. I'm big on
And
music and
not just
sound.
the magical candles, but the aromatic of the home.
Yeah.
When I'm receiving guests, I have got scents creating throughout the home, and what energy is at the back of the home in the bathroom and bedrooms is different from what's in the living room.
Yeah.
um and it
And people
works.
may not think about that, just right off the bat, but different smells, we'll get a little biology here, different smells that come in trigger different chemicals.
Mhm.
And depending on the smell, if it's we can go with the fact of my studio, I have the same smells, the same music every time when they walk in, forever. It's like a trigger of their relaxation, because they know they were in a safe space without any words being said. It just, something happens in their body. So likewise, you can do these sort of things at home if you have certain incense, certain smells, candles, to invite an energy into that space. Like in the beginning, I would burn a certain incense with a candle when I wanted to do ritual stuff, and that became the go-to. And being with my language with the guides and stuff, they knew that's what it was all part of this puzzle, but also setting the energy of guests or for yourself, just
Mhm.
switching up that energy if it's funky and you need
Yeah.
a different. But there's all these levels. It's not just a crystal smell. That's a very important part. Thanks for bringing that up. I haven't ever talked about that, but that's a really big thing because it sets off chemicals in your
Yeah.
body to relax you or stimulate you. It can go either way.
I mean, I get to the point too, specifically talking about smell. um if I know that I'm going to have a guest, if I'm having someone coming over to hang out, to visit, whatever, um the day before, I will change out all of my wax melts and I will do a burn that night so that when I have the guest over the next day, it's on the second burn, which tends to be the most perfect amount of fragrance.
So guys, he takes a lot of effort if you
Yeah.
ever go visit him. I mean, there is
Um,
intention there to set an energy for you.
you don't want it to be so overpowering, especially to anyone who has sensitivities.
Yeah.
Um, and then I will play certain music for certain guests. A lot of times, especially during the day when I'm alone, I play more ambient instrumental electronic music, like instrumental chill on Amazon Music is
Yeah.
my go-to.
Mhm.
However, um, I may play David and Steve Gordon,
Yeah.
which is Carlos Nakai, but electrified.
Yeah. So it's still it's spiritual, but still more chill.
Yes.
Yeah.
However, I get my own witchiness on with Florence and the Machine. To me, that's very spiritual. I have a
That's a
personal
good point.
connection. I have a personal connection,
Mhm.
but like, if I'm like, girl, if I'm getting my witch on, most often I am going to play Florence and the Machine. There are specific songs by other artists like Kellyanna and Hecate's Wheel and Wendy Rule. Like there are specific songs I will play to create a specific energy.
Yes, and that's interesting. I will do that if I'm gathering supplies in the house or doing something beforehand, and or if I'm getting ready to go to a spiritual gathering or something where it's going to gather with me. It's very much that energy. For my private ritual stuff, surprisingly enough to many folks, it's the more Nordic Viking music.
I
Yes, it
believe it.
is. It puts something through me that
Yeah.
is just connected to, the earth and the sky and all the things. Yes, it's strange to some people. It just happened to be that way. I was listening to it one day and this wave of energy flew over me, and I was like, oh, I'm feeling different,
That
And so it's, yeah, I
that's
see
Florence and the
exactly.
Machine for me.
Yeah, and people, guys, pay attention to what sends energy through you in that way. It
Mhm.
seems like subtle differences, but we've learned this is all part of our routine, our natural, normal, bridging the worlds in, living magically is about setting energy, setting all of these things. It's not always tarot cards,
Yeah.
guys. It's as subtle as sense in the house to evoke an energy or music playing. When I need to lighten the energy all the way around in the house, I'm playing some sort of either classical or high vibrating, binaural stuff, something like that to like, let's just shift this up a notch here, guys. If something's not quite right there. But for cooking, I listen to Pitbull, so it is what it is.
Rock and roll. When I clean, I listen to Lizzo.
There you go.
I
See,
love me
there's
some
fun in this.
Lizzo.
And that gives you an energy too. I'm big on sound therapy. I always have been. And I'll tell you, it comes from the fact that it helped me so much with my
Yeah,
ADHD. It changed
absolutely.
my world learning about tones and, music, sounds, all of that completely changed my world and my spiritual practice and allowed me to get to places that I'm not sure I would have gotten there without sound. But that's me. And it can help many others too. Some people, it doesn't matter too much, but that's kind of why I push it a lot, because it made such a difference for me. And it really, if you step back and look, it's been affecting us since we were babies.
Well,
Sound and
it's
energy.
talking about that too. So TV is a recreation for me.
Mhm.
And so the TV does not get turned on until dinner time
Same.
because I leave myself available to clients or I'm on camera till 8 or 9 o'clock, 5 days a week, sometimes 6 days a week. Even on my days off, the TV stays off until dinner is cooked and I am sat down. So there's this little midsection where I may be done with my adulting for the day.
Mhm.
Um, say around, I don't know, 6, 7 o'clock in the evening. And I love to play Jill Scott. in the evening. And I like having that in the background while I'm cooking and just
Yeah.
have that wind down. And then I sit down with dinner, I turn the TV on, and then I just unplug and I watch stupid stuff the rest of the night,
Yeah.
except for episode 3 of The Last of Us, which I regret watching last night, but it was a really good episode.
Yeah. And it's important to unplug.
Yes,
I'll get to points
absolutely.
where so you don't start to build the energy of resentment. We are humans and we're meant to also have our personal time. As practitioners, we have got to balance that. It's so important. And I will start to feel this itch. And regardless of what, the checkbook says, if I'm feeling that itch, I need to take a time out. I need to go and act like I'm 20 again and go play and be human with human experiences and not be an advisor. You got to do this. And I'll get the itch. I wait too long. Yes, I know. I'm working on that.
You are working on it. I want to honor that, actually.
Well, thank you, sir.
Because guys, my lovely and beautiful older sister here,
oh my
for months, whether it be she picked up something in a collective reading or maybe I pulled some cards on her, she kept getting the message to slow down. And
I put my own on there too.
Getting busy. She's like, nah, I can't. I'm not doing that. I've got things to do.
It's true. It's true.
And she didn't listen.
I did
not.
And
I mean, they were coming at her at least for 3 solid months, if not longer.
Probably 6.
And eventually, she was put into a forced pause.
Oh Lord, I got the
against
COVID
her
and
will.
the respiratory 30 days of nothing. I couldn't podcast because I cough. Like they put me in serious timeout.
They did. But you learned that.
Yeah. Why does it take me putting my hand on the stove? I'm so stubborn. I would not advise that.
I don't think you're going to be stubborn like that moving forward, especially after this last round.
I'm a bit gun shy with that now. I'm like,
yeah,
gotta take a break. I don't want to be out of order for 30 days.
No.
And I never get sick, guys. I've probably had antibiotics 4 times in my adult life. Like, I don't get sick. I do a lot of healing work. I listen to my body for the most part, unless it comes to larger tasks and projects I want to accomplish. Then I'm a little bit like a stubborn bull with those things because in the same time I was receiving consistent repetitive messages that it was time, the window was now to do certain things, but I didn't quite get the balance right somehow.
Right.
And they're like, boom. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it's just like, I've been in forecast, or I was in forecast season from December 1st until yesterday. Now I am doing the very last yearly forecast this evening. But the last few days have been quiet. Last week, I had a lot of pre-booked and prepaid sessions. Outside of what was already on the books, everything else was still kind of quiet. And yes, that can make you nervous.
But then it triggers our trust. We need to trust the universe.
There's, how can I put this? It is time to start regenerating and bringing the flow back in. But as we were talking about earlier, I was tiptoeing around that burnout and hitting those walls. And so I have just been like, okay, I'm being provided with this moment to rest, to breathe, to relax. to work on projects around the house I haven't been able to work on in the last 2 months. Because I tell you what, if I wasn't with a client, I was working on a forecast. One of my friends, a few weeks back, they're like, how's it going? What's going on? I'm like, oh, not bad. I've got this client. And then after I'm done with that, I got to try and work on a forecast for at least 2 hours, blah, blah. They're like, that's all you're doing is forecasting. I'm like, it's forecast season.
It's like tax season for accountants or
Yeah.
something. He does
So,
these forecasts, these annual forecasts,
oh my
and they've
gosh.
become quite popular and elaborate over the years. And, it takes him, sometimes hours to do them, depending if they ordered, the deluxe or not. I mean, he's using
Oh no,
multiple
Dave.
modalities and things. And it's just, from what used to be a little paragraph about January, February, now it's pages worth in PDF
Yeah.
format, incorporating all kinds of things, gods and goddesses and just the whole thing. But anyways, there's
Yeah,
that.
and
So it
like
takes a
the
lot of
live,
time.
yeah, the live reading, I have averaged 2.5 hours this year. And this is something that like 3 or 4 years ago was maybe an
That's
hour-long
live,
session.
guys.
Yeah, live in person, or not in person, but the
Yeah,
the actual live
interaction. Yeah,
performance of the forecast, because you're going through each month has 8 forms of divination. We'll just leave it at that.
yeah. So there's So.
There's that.
All right. Well, we are getting towards time here. So I'd like to leave them with something. Maybe, are there any, sort of easy practices or rituals that anybody could do at home across the board, whether they're more leaning towards one area or modality or other? Just what are some one of your favorite things that's overall a good thing to do?
All right. How about this?
Oh,
Um, so we focus a lot on the new moon and the full moon,
yes.
but in my own practices, the eve of the new moon, the night before, the day before, is dark moon. It's dark moon. And it is a perfect time to create a blank slate energy in order to work your manifestations on the new moon. And it's something I've become very passionate about. Whether it is leading up to the dark moon or trying to do everything on the dark moon, honestly, my practice is to get all of the normal, like weekly cleaning done leading up to the dark moon. And then dark moon is reserved for either a special cleaning project or organization. And then a big energy clearing of the home, a burning of a clean sweep candle, burning of some dark, third eye creation candles, burning like dark moon incense. Or I have also, the last few dark moons, I've been working on my Hecate pillar, because she is one of the goddesses of the dark moon.
Yes.
And I've become very passionate about that. And there's times where I'll do all of this clearing and resetting for the dark moon, and then I just embrace the clean slate energy at the new moon, opening myself up to whatever is for my highest and greatest good. A lot of times I do specific work, specific manifestations, but at other times it's just, I have created a space for my highest good to return.
I love it.
And so that is blending a bit of physicality into your magic.
Yeah.
It is the preparation, the physical cleaning in order to manifest. So there's that.
So yeah, guys, this is another example of a way to have a ritual, for the month. That is a ritual practice. It's not ceremony. He's not calling quarters, but he is actively working with, both mundane and magical in his brain, channeling all of that together. And and cleaning up stuff, which is always a good thing, and
And
reorganizing.
it is a major rule for myself that if I'm going to do any magical workings, the physical home has to be in order. Now, again, dusting is the
That's
bane of my
practice too.
existence. So yes, there may be some some things that could still be dusted that I didn't get around to, but like the majority of the cleaning is done.
Yeah.
Everything is in its place. Things are picked up in the corners that don't belong there. And then the other thing I would like to share, um, really, I believe in simplicity. That is a major part of my personal magic. With the new moon, no matter what month it is, no matter what new moon it is, I take it as a time of assessing and realigning and of course manifesting. And so I will sit down and I first will make these lists. I make a list of things that could improve. I make a list
Okay.
of things that could be fixed. And then I go over that list and determine what is and is not in my control
That's a good
or
practice.
in my power. The things that are out of my control, I officially ask for divine assistance and bringing this to fruition. And
Okay.
just in the last year, starting at the beginning of the year, there were 6 or 7 things that were out of my control that needed improved. And now there's only 2. It takes
There you go.
time, but I put those things on that list every single month and ask for divine assistance. And it came in its divine time. The
And
things
that's
that
it.
are,
Don't lose faith, guys. You know, maybe it's
yeah,
going to take a moon cycle or 2 for it to happen consistently. Check back in, be clear with it. You know, check all the bases there to make sure it still is something in the highest and best, all the things he's talking about, but give it some faith and some breathing room for the universe to align things to where they need to be to resolve it in the best way.
the things that I have listed that are in my control become the physical actions that will support my intentions and manifestations. And so for the things I'm asking for divine assistance with, and then the things that I am manifesting, I am saying basically in the spirit of equal energy exchange and in gratitude, I will physically work on these aspects that are in my control to support and bring my desires to fruition.
There you go.
So then once all that's done, I write an official new moon petition with all of those elements incorporated along with my desires. You know, it's, you know, being a 44-year-old man, some of my manifestations are having the monthly bills paid by the 3rd week of the month.
Yeah. I mean, it's okay, guys. We can ask for stuff like that too. But what's important, and I want to note that some of you out there, not all, but some might be going, boy, that's a lot of work. But I tell you what, it's an exercise in getting clear, both psychologically, energetically. And sometimes what you first, especially when you're starting this, what you first put down isn't quite right. You got to get a little deeper. And by writing it all out, it helps. This is it. There's
the
actually
realignment
a reason that we do it this way, and we do take a little longer because there is a coming together of mind and spirit there in the clarity. You must be clear, or else it's going to take a while for something to manifest because it's too murky. It's not clear what action you want them to take, you to take. You know, so. It's not, it doesn't take as long as it sounds. Do it. Just trust us. Do it.
I then will decide on a statement that inspires me. Like, I call my highest and greatest good forward.
Okay.
And I will turn that statement into a sigil, and that's a whole nother podcast.
Yes. I
But
love
I
a
then take
sigil.
that sigil and I will draw that sigil on my petition.
Yes.
And then 9 times out of 10, I put the petition on my gridding table and I build a grid on top of it. And I will run that grid until the dark moon. I break the grid down, I take that intention and I burn it and release, but I never reread it.
Oh, okay.
I never reread it. I do my best not to focus
Well,
on what I
yes.
have written. Once it's been written and put into action, I just put trust forward. I know generally what's in the petition,
Mm-hmm.
but when it comes down to the specifics, I don't focus on it and I don't
Yeah.
talk about it unless something comes to fruition, and then I'll talk about it.
See,
First
that's
rule
a
of
place I
Witch
can
Club:
improve. I end up
don't
discussing
talk
it with
about
the
it.
people
Nope,
close to me.
nope,
And because
nope.
I just get excited and
You
yeah,
do, but
so
then you take away the magic. The first rule of Witch Club is you don't talk about Witch Club.
oh, all
The
right, you've heard
second
it
rule of
here.
Witch Club is you don't talk about Witch Club. And third rule of Witch Club is don't be a douchebag.
There you go.
There you go. Well, Twin, this has been awesome.
Yes, it is. And some of the things we've talked about, I would love, if you're interested, to have specific podcasts.
Let's do it.
Yeah, like what's ringing in my head right now is about magical symbols and how we use them personally.
Yeah.
I like it. Don't anybody steal out there. No, we're not living in lack. Everyone can talk about it. It's a beautiful thing. All right. Yes, it's been great. And where can they find you on the interwebs?
So, as been mentioned, I am the Wondering Fool. That is the social media branding. And so you can find me on Facebook at the Wondering Fool Spiritual Advisor. On TikTok, it is just the Wondering Fool. And that's with an O. Wondering, not wandering. Wondering. Yes, that may or may not have been a mistake many, many years ago, but it fits better than the other. And then on Instagram, it's the Wondering Fool 333. I am available for private readings, both virtually and by phone, Sunday through Friday. Some days I'm available until 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Other days I'm available till 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Mondays, I go live on TikTok at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for Mystical Mondays, where we talk about magic and we do divination. And then, of course, Thursdays, we have the Twin Libra chat on TikTok at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, where we often will squirrel.
We squirrel and we divine. We divinely
divine.
squirrel.
Tuesdays and Wednesdays, I go live on Facebook at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. On Tuesdays, we do the weekly energy reading with the Wild Unknown Spirit Animal Oracle. And then on Wednesdays, we do the weekly tarot forecast. Now, actually, once we're done, I'm going to be going live on Facebook to do the monthly tarot forecast, which I'll be doing on my main page this week, Colby Parrish. That's with 2 R's. And all the lives I do on Facebook are there. You can always go back and take a look at them.
Yeah. And if that seemed like a lot to you guys, it is. We're working on, I'm going to build him a website now. So we're going to have this all in one spot. You can just say, find me at this.com.
Find me at
this.com. In the meantime, if you follow him on Facebook, he does post about when he's going to do all these things. So you'll get notifications if you hit the little follow on there. About all the different other areas that he's going to be at, because he is a mover and a shaker, always doing something.
If you are local, about once a month, I am at the Healing Hedge Witch in Tarpon Springs, Florida. doing in-person readings. My next event there is going to be on Friday, February 10th for a bit of like pre-Valentine's Day action. Jamie and I are going to be at the grand reopening of Third Eye Creations at the Marketplace of
Yes.
Tarpon Springs, 1943 Pinellas Avenue in Tarpon Springs, Florida, on Saturday, March 4th.
I believe, yep.
And we're going to be kind of doing our Twin Libra thing that day.
You can come meet us, say hi.
Doing a meet and greet.
And we'll
saying
both be
hello.
posting on our Facebook of
Yes.
you know, in more detail on this. So basically follow our Facebook pages so you can keep up to date with everything. Because we got a lot, you know, a lot of fun stuff happening.
Would you guys be interested in a Twin Libra chat podcast, like a once a month podcast? Let us know. Let Jamie know.
Yeah, for sure. Because we can do that. And
you know,
like
Twin Libra is something that we created more than a decade ago.
2011.
And it only took us 11 years to actually start doing something with it.
You know,
we didn't know it was going to be online, but
no, we did not know that. But that's just how this stuff works, right? You have an idea and you just leave it in, you know, you leave it there. You don't get rid of it. And then in divine timing, they show you a way that, hey, this is the best fit for that. And then you go with it. So
yeah, absolutely.
All
Plus,
right,
we
guys.
actually have stuff to talk about now. I don't think we would have as we little witch babes.
We just would have complained a lot, probably. I'm thinking.
Probably.
Yeah.
And now
shopping.
Now we can explain why we are complaining.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
All right, guys. Thank you so much. And Colby, thank you for joining us today.
No, Jamie, thank you for inviting me.
Oh, you're welcome.
All
right. All right, everybody. Have a great day.
Peace.